Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever it is you are in the world, and welcome to another edition of Living World of Darkness, Vampire Venue. Our scene today takes us on a journey from a life lived to undeath. Our setting is here in the great city of New York. And the summertime, early August, the air still muggy and balmy, but the prelude to fall is just hinting in the air as the heat from the hot June and July months is slowly dribbling away. And as such, in the city, crimes of passion rise as the heat gets hotter, as tensions flare up, and as the nightlife is bustling. All sorts of ill deeds are taken on in the night. However, on this Friday evening, as the sun sets and it comes close to that most wonderful of times for any individual who runs or works in a shop, it's closing time only about an hour from now. And as our new blood, an antiques dealer, Eleanor, goes about her daily life, she has no idea that the story for her is about to change. But before we get to that, we'll take up with Eleanor herself. What is Eleanor doing on a Friday evening in early August?
On a Friday evening in early August, Eleanor is doing what she loves to do. Cataloging everything, making sure all the prices are right. She's sent her assistants off for the night because, frankly, as useful as they are, they're just hovering and it can get a little annoying when you know they want to leave. So she sent them away because, don't really need them to lift up heavy things. But when they're all hustling, bustling, and being seemingly restless, it's really no use. She can't really deal with uselessness right now. So currently, she's walking through the shop. She's got a nice, big, yellow portfolio. She's noting down the things, making sure things are in pristine condition. Every once in a while, she'll kind of something, make sure it's shining perfectly. Prices on some things, prices on other things. Some things don't have prices, and that's what really tells you how special they are. She just adores being surrounded by all the things she's found and wheedled out of other people. All in the effort to make more money. It's truly very relaxing to Eleanor. Walking around, illuminating the folder, writing and writing and writing. Peaceful person she is at heart. Truly peaceful. As long as you've got money.
Well, as I'm sure that the air conditioning is running, perhaps even a fan or two, as these old antique stores do tend to have a little bit on the older side of, let's say, infrastructure. The door opens. Very innocuous, of course. People come in and out, and little chime on the door that signifies that someone has entered is right there for her to hear, as there are one or two customers milling about, looking at some of the more reasonably priced, more of the everyday or mundane items. The figure that comes to
Sorry, continue.
And the figure that comes to the door is about average height, about 6'2", maybe 6'3", An older gentleman, but was still relatively in shape build, especially for his age. And this gentleman comes in through the door, and almost instantly, Eleanor would likely be able to tell that as he looks around, he completely passes over everything that would be considered to be run of the mill. His eyes immediately catch on finds from imported relics from Africa and a few effigies of some native tribes here in the United States. He passes over things that are of a build within this last 100 years or so. He seems to gravitate towards things that are older, Victorian, and anything preceding that timeline.
Eleanor will smile. She has a very friendly face. Hello, welcome to the shop. Do you see anything of interest, sir? We do have some fine items from ages ago, and some newer items. I know some people like to consider themselves more recreational little archaeologists. It's all very interesting. We even have books if you may be so inclined. Just keep in mind the shop is authentic. The things might not be as simple as just buying a few fetishes for, say, a granddaughter, a niece, or nephew. Things here are serious. Just a little warning. But if you do want to have something of the interest for children or a lover of some sort, we do have other more amenable stuff. Things that are easy to work with. They are also cheaper.
Well, miss, I am in the market for a number of things. I've only recently arrived in the city, and I like to collect things. And as my apartment at the moment has very little in the way of decoration, I figured I might as well come by and see what the local neighborhood has to offer in the way of art. I don't suppose that you would have anything from, oh, say, 1652 to about 1830.
What area are you looking for? The items I have here are, some of it is decorative artwork. But if you really want something interesting, you can always put up a fetish or two, and that works as modern pieces. My store is not like others, so if you were more inclined to the mainstream sort of older artwork, I'm sure you can find anything else in Hell's Kitchen. But if you want something actually of interest, what region are you looking for? I'm sure I have something just in mind for you. She says she's putting the manila folder underneath the main counter, walking along, giving him a once-over. He said he's from out of town. He looks like decent money. He holds himself highly. He could be anything from a wealthy grandfather to a former CEO. All of which has dollar bills in her mind.
Well, as it were, I am quite interested in any pieces that I can find from Mary Cassett. I understand some of her work has made it across the pond from France. I was wondering perhaps if you had any of it.
I might. I have one piece. It's, well, you could call it a sculpture of sorts. Some have looked at it and deemed it worthy of paperweight, but unfortunately, they are far from the truth of it. Lead him to one of the corners of the shop. Glass case. And inside the case are about 20 or so different porcelain figures, each not like the other, but all of them kind of encased separately in tiny little glass boxes. She'll open one and present it to him. And it is a small sculpture of a woman. She looks like your kind of like quintessential sort of scullery maid. Very kind of pristine artwork, very fine porcelain, but the face is gone, it's distorted. And all along they can just see are small little gems. She's not your average scullery maid. Something about this piece is off, but it is beautiful. She will hold it and she will kind of spin it around. There's a small mechanism on the bottom of this piece, which is frankly a little too advanced for, I'm going to say, 1558. If you press this switch right here, the scullery maid will spin and spin and spin, and it makes the most odd noise. It's very distorting, but she's beautiful. I don't often have people look at her simply because, well, there's something special about her, and I'm not about to sell it to some upstart CEO who just moved to the area. Would you like to see her?
Oh, of course, if you wouldn't mind, of course.
Mm-hmm. And she'll bring him back to the counter, and there'll be like a small little platform. She'll open the glass box and place the maid on it, and as she shows you, there is a small little switch. It's not a little mechanism. I'm not exactly sure how they put it together. From what I've tried to see, there's a lot of intricate parts within her, and the only way to open her up would be to shatter her, and honestly, it'd be a sin to do so. And she'll invite you to turn on the little machine. It's a very small little piece, and it does make the most distorting sound. It's the kind of sound that crawls up your back and makes you aware of things. But most people find that disconcerting. Who knows if they will?
Well, as he looks at this piece, he takes out from his the pocket on his lapel, he pulls out the handkerchief, sort of shakes it open, and he will use it to insulate the porcelain doll from his hand, and he'll look it over, sort of leaning it to one side and to that side. He looks at the mechanisms underneath, sort of looking up towards any gaps that he can possibly see into the actual porcelain figure. And he sets it back down. I have to say, it's a very unique piece.
I'm quite impressed they actually know how to handle pieces like this, she says, mentioning to the handkerchief.
Well, seeing as I haven't purchased it, if the oils on my hands were to mar it in any way, that would be unfair to the person who does end up buying it.
Okay.
It's very nice. Though not quite what I'm looking for. I am more looking for any paintings. Something that will really stand out and strike anyone who views it. Something that could be placed in a room, a dark cherry finish, a rather cozy fireplace. Something that on nights when it's just firelit would truly dance.
Eleanor will pick up the figurine with gloves and put it back in her case, put her underneath the counter, and bring out a portfolio. I do have artwork in the back. Obviously, I cannot just have it shown about. The light would distort the pictures, and, well, that's not exactly a good idea. but I do have light photographs of them. She'll open up the folder and kind of display some of them out. Are any of these of interest? I do have some pieces that are quite old, but they are fragile, and they're all the way in the back. And again, because of their age, they're not exactly as simple, price-wise.
He begins to look over what you've presented him. And takes him a bit. Goes from one picture to the next, flipping them over, taking note of till he comes across a picture, and it's a painting dated anywhere between 1795 and 1858, more accurately 1848. And it's a picture of Faust and Mephistopheles. Really hope I'm pronouncing that right out of character. But he seems to become fixated on it. He looks at it, looks at this sort of print of what you have in the back. Would you mind if I happen to be able to look at this in person?
She'll peer at him. Okay. Give me a moment. Kind of look him up and down. Her eyes kind of turn to the closed-circuit security system she has. It's not often that people are interested in the piece that she's shown. In fact, she just have a hard time getting rid of it. It's a beautiful painting, but it's not exactly something many are interested in.
If perhaps
So
you
she'll
need
put
to
her hands
wait
on.
until the other customers leave the stores, I'm sure that I can perhaps wait a few minutes after you
Yes.
actually close.
You're welcome to actually come back. I do keep odd hours.
Very
Let me
well.
deal with the customers that I have. Peer around to anything else you might find of interest. What is your name again, sir?
Nikolai. Nikolai Fell.
Mr. Nikolai Fell?
Doctor.
Dr. Fell, then. Well, Dr. Fell, and she'll kind of reach her hand out. I am the owner and proprietor of this store. Eleanor, it is nice to meet you.
And he'll
Is it
take your
interested?
hand. Charmed, Eleanor.
Mm-hmm. I do have charms if you're interested in that too. Thank you. All right, I will see you in a few times, Dr. Fell. Comes away and go back to dealing with some of the other customers. Some middle-aged mothers who want to spice up their sex life, teeny boppers who want charms to curse their teachers in order to get better grades, all of which are probably shit. But hey, people are buying it. Be ringing people up and keeping an eye on Dr. Fell. But probably nothing, right?
Seems to take
Right.
an interest in some early 19th century literature. Volumes and collections that you have that are only, just coming up on that century mark, something from, the early 1900s. And he takes one of them out, and he just looks over the pages, but he seems to busy himself with these volumes rather than wander around the store. He keeps himself within your line of sight as he doesn't want to divide your attention from your customers all that much.
Mm-hmm. Very gracious of him. And as the day winds down, so does the shop. She's sure to count the receipts and put everything underneath the counter into the safe. She'll be sure to count over the money and make sure everything's recatalogued after she deals with her last customer. So start closing up, and she'll close the windows and just leave the door half locked. If all else fails, there's an exit. She doesn't normally lead people to the back unless she has her assistants out as well, because the back is a very large space that is also very dark. She's got many pictures back there, and the lighting is not as fair as it should be for normal sight. But all in the name of making sure that precious paintings are in pristine condition so she can get the most bang for her buck. She will collect her papers and walk towards him. Dr. Fell,
Miss Eleanor.
have you everything in order? I can take you to the back now.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
If you see anything of interest as we make our way there, please be sure to let me know.
I will be sure to do that.
And she will lead him to the back room. The back room is all the way in the back. There's a large oak door that keeps it sealed. It's oak overlaying metal. And she unlocks and opens the door. Please come in.
And he steps in once offered.
And she makes her way inside with him. The Faust painting is on the right corner side, kind of in the middle of the wall. And over it, like many of the other paintings around, is a thin muslin sheet, in order to make sure the light filtering in doesn't affect it so much. I do have a plate next to it. It is all verified. Everything I have here is authenticated. So, don't worry.
Wonderful. And he'll step towards the painting. And he'll pull out a pair of glasses from inside his coat, set it onto the bridge of his nose, and begin to look the canvas over. Keeps his arms clasped behind his back as he looks. And Eleanor, you get the sense that he really knows what he's looking for. He's not somebody who sort of window shops. When he's looking for something, he has in mind exactly what he wants. And as such, when he sees it, it's very clear and apparent, and he seems to be quite pleased with what he sees. And he gets just the smile. Oh, Dr. Maller, I do believe this would suit you perfectly. And he'll turn back to Eleanor.
Eleanor will keep a kind of plastic smile on her face. Is everything in order, sir?
I do believe this is the piece that I would like to get. A very dear friend of mine here in the city truly would appreciate this piece.
All right, then. Well, as you can see, I am asking from somewhere between 13 and 11 for it. It's a large piece, and this also includes shipping.
You see.
I mean, if you would like to take a piece like this on the subway system, you're more than welcome to, and I'll drop it tonight.
No,
But
I
don't
think
that's a good idea.
it would probably be a bit obtuse to carry around.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll see to it that it's shipped, and your price seems fair enough. The markup, I'm sure, is...
In all honesty, you're doing me a favor.
Really?
This is one of the first pieces I came across. The previous owner had some issues, and it was left in my hands. Since then, I've been unable to entice anyone to it. Not everything I have here is to everyone's liking, which is unfortunate. But I'm sure your companion will appreciate the work. It is beautiful. Simply just...
Well, people of certain tastes,
different.
as it were. But in any event, I am sure that my friend Dr. Mallow would quite enjoy this. I'll, do you accept check, or would you prefer cash in hand?
Do you have cash in hand? She'll raise
Not
my
of
eyebrow.
that, not of that amount, I'm afraid, my dear. That'd
Check
be...
will be fine, but I will require a name in order to make sure that everything follows there.
Of course. And he'll gesture back towards the front of the shop.
And she'll lead him to the front, giving a quick look to both the back room and the front room, and close it up. And lead him to the counter, where she will get out her books and start writing.
And he will pull out from his pocket what looks to be sort of just a nice leather-bound checkbook. Not the vinyl books that you would normally see that are just handed out by a bank. This looks like it's something that belongs to him, that didn't come with the checks. And he'll open it up, and he'll pull out a pen. And he begins to fill it out. Fills in the price and the date.
Mm-hmm.
And as he signs it, he pulls it out, pulls out his ID from the same book, and hands them both over.
Mm-hmm. She verifies and writes information, hands him back the ID, fills out the check, and gives him a copy. And where exactly would you like us to be shipping this to?
This will be heading into...
If you could just note.
It'll be heading into Midtown, dear.
Mm-hmm. All right. And she'll write down address provided. And keep that. All right. Considering it is late August, we'd be able to send this to your associate in about 3 days or so. It's fairly quick for us in order to get our shipping handled.
That would be wonderful.
All right. And she hands him a paper to sign to verify everything is correct.
And he'll look it over. And once he sees that everything is in order, he'll again lift up the pen and he'll sign his name, date it, and initial. And then he will slide the paperwork back over to Eleanor.
Eleanor will overcheck, give him the carbon copy, and place all of the other intricate work into her safe. Well, it has been nice doing business with you, Dr. Fell. Thank you for being here. She'll raise out her hand to shake.
And he will take the hand and give it a gentle squeeze. Tell me, Eleanor, are you a connoisseur of various items? What you have around
Yes.
here, some of it is, I can see, more for the everyman, but you do have a fair number of items that collectors would find themselves giddy to own.
I have made my way a little bit around the world and have brought things that I feel people might be of interest in. Some of these items are more so for collectors of a certain type, people who could fully appreciate what I have. And others are for the everyday man. And I can't have, at least 4 of you every day. So I must appeal to all types and tastes. So my items are definitely complicated, intricate. And my items are not. I'm hoping to make my way in this little city of ours to fully immerse myself. Make sure that everyone has what they need. Plus, with the fine art that I have, why wouldn't I want to? I'm here to help, of course. And if I make a little bit of money on the side, then it all works out. Academia can be so expensive.
Well, if it so pleases you. And he'll pull out a business card and hand it over. Stop by my office sometime. I have quite a few pieces that should be arriving in the next few months for my collection back home. Perhaps if you see something that truly strikes your fancy, I might be able to part ways with it. If nothing else, I
Should have
always
a business card.
do enjoy someone who can appreciate the finer things in life.
Dr. Fell, what exactly are you a doctor of? If I may
Well,
ask.
I'm a neurosurgeon by trade.
The intricacies of the mind. I do have
Indeed.
some older medical texts and actually medical equipment, all of which are incredibly gruesome when you think about it, but very interesting. But I don't keep them here. They're even further into the back.
Well, if you ever feel the need to stop by, simply give this number a call. My assistant will, of course, see to it that you are set up with an appointment.
Thank you, Dr. Fell. And she'll shake his hand again and lead him out. Keeping in mind for the business card. Not every day. Could be of use.
And off he goes. And as he goes off, the 3 days pass, and the picture is, of course, or the painting, rather, is shipped off and taken to where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And how soon Eleanor will give Dr. Fell's office a call?
I'm going to say about a week and a half.
All right. Well, a week and a half later, Eleanor decides to give the number a call. And his assistant, pleasant woman with a Cambridge accent from the sound of it, sets up a meeting in a coffee shop not too far from where his office is located. About a little bit after 8:30 p.m.
All right. Late hours. And she will go to meet him. Bringing with her another little folder, she figured she'd show him some pieces that she has. Maybe entice him into some of the old neurosurgeon equipment.
Well, as you go to this coffee shop, it's in one of the ritzier places in Manhattan, around Chelsea, and he sits there with a glass of wine, uh, and well, actually, yeah, we'll just say it was a wine shop, not a coffee shop. My mistake.
I mean, I'm pretty sure, I can think of like 3 coffee shops in Chelsea only that might have like their own brand of like wines. It's weird. New York is really weird.
Fair enough. Well, then he is at one of these very ritzy coffee shops, and he seems to be just resting there. He doesn't seem to be looking around as if he's waiting for Eleanor. He's just calmly sitting, and every so often he brings a glass up to his mouth and takes a bit of a sip and then sets it back down.
Eleanor will make her way towards Dr. Fell and smile. Hello, Dr. Fell. It's nice to see you again.
Eleanor. And he'll stand up. Pleasure is all mine.
She will smile at him, shake his hand, and gesture to make a seat. Or to seat herself.
And he waits until she sits down before he sits himself. And as he takes his seat, does so with a bit of grace that, well, he looks a bit old to have that sort of that poise as he sits down. Clearly keeps himself in pretty good shape, all things considered, if that's the case.
Just like him. I'm glad that I was able to meet with you. I'm interested in the artifacts you might have, and I did think ahead and bring some prints that you might be interested in as well.
Well, I didn't bring you here for business transactions, though we can talk business if you want. This is more of a social call.
Understandable. Then she'll put the middle folder in reverse. Smile.
Tell me, what is it about objects from a bygone era that brings such interest to you?
Part of me wants to say, and will say, that it is a peer into the past, understanding how and why certain things were made and to what uses they had to the people who are long gone. I have intricate pieces in my shop, things that are just so mundane and other things that are incredibly complex and beautiful. And then you have to wonder, just what purpose did they have eons ago? And then figure, well, how do I make them of use to now? There's all this hullabaloo of making things that are old and repurposing them. You've got intricate $800 coffee shop tables that are made from repurposed barnwood from some decrepit barn in like the 1700s. And it's technically the same thing as getting the same exact coffee table at IKEA. Only thing is, it has age to it, it has a history with it, and it has a price that is probably 8 times. The past is expensive. The past is interesting. The past is always around us, and we can keep it a little while longer if we know what we're doing. Part of me will say that. The past is interesting, and to understand it and to use it is really what gives me a vital mind. And the other part of me understands that we live in a busy world. It's eat or be eaten, and money talks all the ways. If I can find a business venue that allows me to immerse myself in the past and make a decent buck out of it, then I'll go full ham. Plus, I've been able to make interesting contacts, allies throughout the world that help me along. Being in the network is fun, simply for the chaos that it brings. And that's why. Simply because it's something to do, but it's something fun to do. And if I can make sure that I can actually eat in this city, it's just a plus.
And what about your past, Eleanor?
My past?
Yeah.
I'm from a podunk suburb near Chicago. My parents are divorced. They were parents. Simple as that. I don't view myself as having a worse childhood or a better childhood than anyone else. Simply, it is what it is, and they are divorced. I'm an only child. But I grew quickly, and I knew that in order to get what I wanted, I had to be better than everyone else. But I feel that is just simply an asset to my personality and not exactly circumstance of whatever. Made my way in Chicago and, due to the climate, decided to leave. Chicago's not for everyone. And she'll kind of say with a smile that's a little bit acidic, very tight, but she truly means it. Chicago isn't for everyone.
Eleanor, as you sit there and you speak to him, there's a sudden unsettling sensation. I'm not really sure what it is. It's almost as if that presence that's always just at the periphery of your mind is just there. But you just feel this overwhelming sense of invasion. It's very subtle. But it does leave a lingering chill on your body, and then it's gone. How does Eleanor react to it?
Eleanor kind of flinches a little, moving inside, just puts her hair behind her ear, playing it off as if nothing had happened. Maybe it's just a headache, maybe it's just she hasn't eaten, maybe it's just low blood sugar.
Could possibly be the heat as well. It is August after all.
Yeah. Yes, it is August. She will look to the waiter and gesture for water.
Dr. Fell brings the wine glass up to his lips and takes a sip out of it and sets it back down. How much did the tension between your two parents shape who you are now? From what I can gather by looking at you in the way that you speak so wistfully of it, seems as though this part of your life left a certain bitter taste in your mouth.
Her smile grew a little tight. Eyes just a little less light. Well, anyone can say that their childhood has shaped them in different manners. I'm simply a product of my upbringing. An only child who realizes that in order to get anywhere in life, you simply need to be better than everyone. But that's something that anyone could come up with. If I am embittered, it is simply the fact that people should really think things through. I have no patience for fools or people who let themselves blinded by emotion. I focus more on being clear of mind and making sure that everything that I plan goes well. But that's simply a good asset of being a business person.
Hmm.
But
So
of
you don't
course,
suffer the ignorant and the foolish, then?
I should hope not. Perhaps I can be passionate, but I'm also aware that passions can be easily blinding. And in my work, because finding objects can be hard and dangerous sometimes, making other people passionate is easy. That way you can simply get what you want. But again, business ventures are like that. I am usually above it. But you have to be a tough person in this kind of town and this kind of work.
But you're not above making your money off such people.
No, of course not. If they're there, why should you use them? And hopefully it can be a good tool for them to learn better in the future, a lesson, of course.
I see.
I'm not a cruel person, but I'm a logical one, even if my logic only makes sense to me.
I believe the word you're looking for, dear, is pragmatism.
Perhaps indeed. I'm a pragmatic soul. And sometimes the things I do may not make sense. But it all works out in the end, and that's really all that matters to me. So things simply work out the way I need them to, the way that I have arranged them to. Why are you so curious, Dr. Fell?
Well, as you can probably understand, entering into a city like this, you have the chance to encounter many individuals, some of which can be very trying and taxing. My arrival here, with the exception of a few colleagues and individuals in my social circle, was exhausting at best. You were a bit of refreshment, helped cleanse the palate, as it were. Made me feel as though I hadn't quite made a complete mistake of relocating here to this side of the world.
I see. So basically, if I may be so bold, Dr. Fell, people suck, and you just need a little bit of relief.
It's nice to have someone to talk to, regardless of the difference in age. I can find that people from any generation, as long as they have some common thread and common interests, they can find a connection. And connections are rare in an urban environment such as this.
You are correct. I can understand. Which is a logical kind of way of thinking. I thought maybe I could help. And her smile kind of lightened a bit. This
He
day is
just
not one
smiles.
that is easy to get used to.
He smiles and he takes another sip out of the wine glass and sets it down. There's only just the small smattering left there in the very bottom, and he's not about to tip the glass all the way up and make
That would be
a
crass.
make a spectacle of himself. So he sets it down, and he sets it down. You notice that every time he goes to pick up this this glass, he always uses the handkerchief to touch it. Like, you've really not seen him make any contact with anything. Well, he's never touched anything in your presence that it wasn't his own without using some kind of a buffer between the two. Perhaps with the exception of shaking your hand, of course.
And then I was going to think about it and rationalize it to maybe being a germaphobe or being uncomfortable with his surroundings. It is odd, but not that weird yet. He's also an older gentleman, so perhaps it's simply a habit he had picked up and has long lost the need to get rid of it. She's sure that at a certain age you just stop giving a fuck.
Well, he as he finishes up, he of course leave behind a few crisp bills for the waitress, and he'll stand up and offer out his hand.
Eleanor will take it and raise herself up, smile at the waitress, and thanks for good service.
And Dr. Fell will lead you a few blocks away from the coffee shop down to looks to be an older building. And he walks up and holds out a little key fob, which opens up the door. And he'll hold it open for you.
She will follow in, smiling politely, keeping sure to make sure she knows where she is. But always be cautious. This may be a rich area, but of course, it's still New York.
And this building has some classical architecture to it. It's clearly a office type setting, but it's one meant to be a bit more decadent. Clientele is all slightly above and beyond what you would normally see, as far as renters for the actual building. Clearly, these doctors, whoever they are, do not practice medicine on these premises.
Interesting. She'll keep note of that.
And as you go up several flights of stairs, he leads you over to a door. Dark, very dark oak finish, brass doorknobs, and they seem to be shined to an immaculate state. He opens the door for you.
She will cautiously go in.
And he will step in. And when he does, he'll remove his hat, place it on a coat rack, and remove his sort of his overcoat, sports jacket, and also hang it. And being that it's August, probably not a good chance that Eleanor does not have a jacket.
No, she just has a button-up business shirt.
Yeah. So then he will lead her down a hallway, and you can see that there's various busts and pieces of art on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them from that Victorian era that he seems to be fond of.
On the racial stop every once in a while. Give a look over. Nice, real, actually real. How do you find a piece that's real like that? Okay, cool. And her mental state is like, good. He actually knows what he's doing in the realm of artwork and artifacts.
And when he opens up the double doors at the end of the hallway, you come into an office. It's a 2-level office, though it's all open. The upper level is just a balcony that spans this double-decker set of shelves, library. And seems to be an old Persian rug that stretches out across the floor between 2 sets of leather chairs and a couch. A table in between them with a very rich mahogany finish. A desk looks like it was made from redwood. But you notice that there's just various items from around the world. A lot of old Sumatran and Persian statues and carvings and idols and pottery, all sort of stretched out. And there's various pieces of artwork that she can see and observe. All of it, well, for a person like Eleanor, it would be a dream come true. A candy store, if you will.
All the money. All of it's so beautiful. So far away, so close. She's very appreciative of the decor, simply for its eloquence and elegance. But she will contain herself. She's there to network. And maybe be friends. Dr. Fell is an interesting individual. And so far, so good. But she is still cautious. It is New York City. And as she has said before, it is a dog city.
Well, after sort of that wonderment dies off, the sound of glass can be heard as seems to have pulled out a tray that's set off to one side on sort of a end table, and he pours 2 glasses. Looks to be like an old brandy of some sorts, and he'll bring one glass over and hand it to Eleanor.
Eleanor will accept the brandy. Smile. Thank you, Dr. Fell.
and he'll take the one in his hand and offer it out. To individuals that don't tax us so greatly.
That is something that I can definitely cheer to. To individuals do not tax us as greatly.
And after they've clinked their glasses, he'll take a sip. And he'll walk over to one of the display cases and he'll open it up. There's no lock on it, oddly enough. You'd think that an item of that ilk is, well, you'd want to keep under lock and key. And he'll reach in with the handkerchief and pull out what looks to be a very old Persian dagger. And he'll walk over to the coffee table in between the two sets of chairs. And he'll splay out a sort of like a felt pedestal or observing pad, something to not let it touch any hard surface. And he will set it down there and pick up a second handkerchief to sort of pull it open so that way the blade can be exposed. And he'll set the scabbard and the blade side by side. And the blade's old and varnished, dating back to the Persian conquest. More than likely, this item seems to have had its fair share of wear and tear over the ages.
Honor will approach and gaze at it. Akinaka. An older piece. Very old, if you can tell by the age. Just peer down. Not touching the item, but kind of just turning her head just so she can try to see everything.
If you would like, you may roll your perception and academics.
Got you.
You're in Vampire Dice Roller. You should hopefully have access to those.
Yes. Ready then? Sweet. Alright, I type right?
Ah, those ones. Awful ones.
Terrible ones.
I'll let you re-roll at a difficulty 7.
Alright. Yeah, 1.
The one's killing us today. So as you look at it, perhaps you can't place the dagger's exact timepiece. Yeah. You know that it's Persian. Easy enough to figure that out, but how old it is would be very hard to tell. Perhaps you're just a bit too distracted by everything else that you see.
Yes, so many distractions. She does, however, have some books in her shop about Persian pieces similar to this. She'll mention it to Dr. Fell and perhaps suggest that she bring it one day. It's beautiful. Very beautiful. Definitely old considering that it's gotten mixed everywhere, but breathtaking. And possibly still able to kill people. Which is always a plus.
I would assume not. Not as it is. It would require a great deal of work, and the blade is fairly brittle and oxidized at this point.
Wow,
Sure that if you were to... Although I suppose if you wanted to subject someone to the death by blunt instrument, it would certainly suit that need.
Considering how oxidized it is, the infection alone would kill someone.
But it is it's a favorite piece of mine. I didn't come by it easily. Something I had to work for. And perhaps if you figure out the details about it, I might be willing to part with it.
I will accept this challenge, Dr. Fell. And even so, it's a beautiful piece. I wouldn't want to take it off without earning.
Absolutely. I like the way you think.
Thank you.
There's another piece I'd like to show you, if you'd indulge me.
Mm-hmm. Proceed.
And he'll lead her to sort of a back room. And it is just off the fireplace. Fireplace isn't lit because they're in August. We kind of,
August.
yeah, there's no reason to have that going at this point. But he opens up the door, and it looks to be sort of just a display room. It's very small, but the lighting is meant to display wall art. And he walks over to a specific piece, and he gestures towards it. And if you would like to roll your intelligence academics,
Mm-hmm.
if you would like, you may spend a willpower point.
Gotcha. Just have to summon Discord because it's acting stupid.
It does that from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you have difficulty 5 rage rolls to heal yourself and not die.
Intent. So you said, what were the rules again?
Intelligence academics, please. And if you would like to spend a willpower point, you may.
Yeah, I might do that. Oh, no, I think I might be good.
Well, that's, with the willpower, that's 5 successes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an old piece from the Renaissance. And
Mm-hmm.
it depicts a married couple in the throes of a heated conversation. The story behind the piece is that the artist was depicting a husband being confronted by his wife about infidelity. And in the end, passions get the better of the wife. And what you see before you is the man laying on the floor with the wife standing bloodied with a knife in hand, and him with a rather large bloody wound across his neck.
Eleanor will kind of gaze out into a little. Her eyes are open. Mouth is tightly shut, and as she kind of digests what she's looking at. The piece itself is beautiful, passionate, and heavily detailed, and that itself is wonderful, but it just hits a little. Those emotions that she's not fond of kind of well up a bit until she's able to breathe and compartmentalize. And then her eyes close, not as wide and hurt, regular, narrowed a bit. Her smile is steady. It's an interesting piece. Who's done this? As she looks for a name.
The only name that you really come up with is couldn't be given the era, but the name is Marguerite. There's no surname to it.
Such passion. You'd think you were there, or it was a memory.
The artist who painted this some speculated for many years, was a man. Very little known fact that only came to light within the last, I'll say, 50 years or so. This was a Renaissance piece done by a woman. And of course, the name being Marguerite was seen to indicate as much. Very little is known about her. But what has been written about her is that the painting depicts betrayal and the consequences of it. Turning against one's family, bringing pain and suffering to it with the breaking of matrimony or a pact. It is a tale that goes back as far as written history does. It's the beginning of time, if you prescribe to such holy texts as, say, the Bible. Of course, the betrayal of God by Adam and Eve when they took from the tree of knowledge, or perhaps when Judas Iscariot betrayed Christ.
Sometimes
Or,
when
go ahead.
Eleanor will kind of gaze and let out a breath. Sometimes when there's betrayal, the only sacrifice that can be in order to let it settle would be blood. And as it seems, that's what's going on here. Something so deep and hurtful can only be savored by bloodshed. But bloodshed differs nowadays. Sometimes the best way to hurt someone is by going for their wallet. Of course, you can make them bleed. Why make them bleed when you can make them suffer?
I suppose it all depends on exactly what spin you want to put onto it. It's interesting that you mentioned sacrifice. Talking of biblical texts. Adam and Eve, Christ and Judas, and of course Cain and Abel.
The first murder, apparently.
Yes. Interesting bit out of the good book that I always seem to come back to in some way. The first bit of wrath that entered into this world, according to the Bible. We wonder what the repercussions of it will be. Would this world be pure and peaceful had Cain not slain his brother?
I doubt it. Rage, wrath itself, hurt, is natural. From the oldest of the old to even the youngest, you see children fall and get angry because the pain is what makes them angry. You can't stop the pain. Even if it was the first murder that it had not happened, it would eventually happen. Can't have the good without the bad. It's kind of a balancing act, I assume.
Balancing act between what is deemed right and what we want. Cain wanted to impress God with a sacrifice.
I'm
The
pretty sure
woman,
he made an impression either way.
the woman in this painting wanted retribution for being hurt.
Mm-hmm.
What revenge do you seek to take on the things that wrong you?
There's a phrase that says the best revenge as being the most successful or some sort. Basically, it means it can be is what's the true revenge against others. Personally, I find that being the best is simply a means to an end. Simply be the best, and if you can crush the people around you who have hurt you for petty wins, then it all works out. I want to make sure that my findings are world renowned. Name here at my shop. To tingle in the back of their mind and know that I'm not to be trifled with. Best revenge is making sure that people are aware, not that they're being successful, but that they know that you are better than them. And if you need to extend your muscles every once in a while to make them remember for when they start to act funny, then by all means do so. If someone gets hurt along the way, well, one must make sacrifices. Simply the way of the world.
I see. So you speak of how you would treat the world as it treats you, how you would seek to gain some matter of satisfaction. And what do you do when the world doesn't give you satisfaction? More poignantly, and he kind of gestures towards Eleanor, specifically when you are the one at fault.
When you do your best to spin another tale. If you are in the wrong and you are caught. Twist things about so that the hurts that you have done have eased, and if not, can be pinned on someone else. And learn from your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep on doing the same thing and it doesn't work out, that's pure insanity. It also makes no sense. It's not efficient. Find different ways, different avenues to fix what you've done. And if you can't fix it, try to ease it a little and put it in someone else's lap. Maybe they'll have the better ways to fix it. And you learn, and learn, and learn. Because no matter how old you get, you keep on learning. But hopefully, you learn your lesson and you don't get caught next time.
Well, that is certainly one way to look at it. Not wanting to get caught when you're doing something most wouldn't find savory, versus only natural. Though, if you permit me to give you a bit of advice, Eleanor.
You may. Whether or not I will follow it will be of the future.
A good individual will accept the responsibility for what they have done, what they have been caught doing, let's say. A great individual will ensure that he learns from his mistake and shows by example the depths of which he or she, in your case, is willing to go to right what was wrong in themselves as an individual. Think of it as a means to purge part of yourself which failed. As you put it, say in the act of being caught.
It is actually pretty good advice.
And he'll look at his watch. Okie dokie then. Well, glad that you were able to come by, Miss Eleanor.
I
But
am
I am
too.
afraid that I do have other appointments to keep to this evening.
Understandable. Thank you for having me over, and I will be looking into that dagger you have. And she'll give him a very pleasant smile.
And he will, of course, see her out of the office.
Mm-hmm. And off she'll go.
And we jump forward past the end of summer, past the beginning of September, and well into October. And Eleanor, you're back at your store. Dr. Fell hasn't been in close contact, but of course he's a doctor and quite busy. But on a day when it's raining outside, cool, crisp rain, not many customers in your store. It's midday, between noon and say 3 o'clock. The door opens. And in walks a man. He has the air of somebody who's very self-assured of who they are and where he stands in the hierarchy of things. One might say he has a cocky or arrogant air to him. And he makes his way up to the counter, and if Eleanor isn't there, Eleanor have one of those little bells.
Mm-hmm. She does.
And
I gather this will be a day that her assistants are not there.
pardon?
I'm guessing her assistants aren't there.
It's just her today.
Okay. So there is a tiny little bronze bell that he can tap to summon her.
Well, then he presses it only once. There's that that distinct chime.
Hello, I'll be right there. Eleanor will say as she comes out from where the back bookcase is. She'll smile. As always, manila folder, pen, cataloging. Calms her down. Hello, welcome to my shop. How can I help you?
And he'll pull out a little notepad from his jacket. Your name is Eleanor Vega, isn't it?
Nazon Vega, yes. How can I help you, master? Then she'll kind of gesture for him to give his name.
And he'll reach down and he'll pull up his wallet. He'll open it up, and it has a NYPD shield. Detective Francis Trevisani. Homicide.
Good afternoon, detective. Do you have a business card I can keep on record,
Absolutely.
if I may?
And he'll pull one out of that same wallet and hand it over to her as he puts the shield back into his back pocket.
She'll look it over. Put it on the counter. How can I be of assistance, Detective Trevisani?
Well, I don't know if you've heard, but there was a murder over in Midtown, and a Dr. Mailer was found pretty brutally murdered in his office. And
Midtown. Um,
we were going over some of the accountings that the good doctor had, and we noticed that that there was a piece. It was pretty cut up, slashed up even.
the painting?
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
And we traced transaction and the shipping of that particular painting back to this store, and I was wondering if I could ask you some questions
Of
uh,
course.
about the customer who purchased it.
Of course. It was supposed to be a gift. The painting was shipped to the good doctor's estate a couple of months ago. back in August. I have the paperwork. And she'll pull out another folder and show the record slip.
As he starts to go look at it, his phone rings and he just says, "Ah, sorry about that. Give me 1 second." And he'll open up the phone. Paul, hey, no. No, I don't think I can stop by tonight. We got a new investigation on the table. Maybe for lunch. I don't know. Kind of late for lunch, though. And he'll look back over at Eleanor. Oh, right now. Kind of on duty right now. Just talking to this lovely shop owner. He kind of gives Eleanor a wink.
Eleanor will have like a wooden smile, like,
Yeah, no. No. All the same, Paul. Each and every time. All right. And they'll hang up the phone. Sorry about that. Associate from the next precinct over. Where were we?
Here's the record slip of the painting shipping and handling. This is the address to the deceased doctor, yes?
I see. Huh. We'll look it over. I don't suppose I could get a copy made out of this. You wouldn't mind doing that for me, sweetheart, would you?
No, I don't mind. Do you need any other information? We are kind of closing up soon. It's not exactly a busy day.
I mean, I could use, any contact information or any info that you have on this Dr. Nikolai Fell, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes, here you go. And she'll take out a piece of paper and write down his name. Dr. Nikolai Fell, as you can see, all of the information is on the record here. He purchased it in truck. Very genial fellow. Actually understood artwork.
I think he might be upset to find out about that painting. It looked like it was pretty old.
Yes, it was supposed to be a gift. I'm sure he's more upset over the death of his friend, though. I'm more concerned about the painting, but I didn't know it was
So you got
and she'll
kind of got like a art fetish going on there.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Well, it's older artifact. Plus, it was around $1,300, so it's really a crime that it was destroyed along with the death of the person.
Well,
Monster does that.
property over personnel is not exactly something that we in homicide tend to think about. But I'm sure it's a tragedy in its own right, especially if it was one of a kind. But
Yes, it was. And she'll go into a small office behind the counter and make a copy. The copy machine's facing the counter, so she'll be like, just should be like 1 minute as she's making the copies.
and would you like to roll your perception and alertness, Eleanor?
Sure. I've got a 1. Yes.
Two successes, standard diff. So two successes from the corner of your eye, Eleanor. You notice that this detective, as you kind of turn your head to one side, or maybe there's a reflective, pane of glass over a framed piece of art in your little office. You can see him, and his eyes are moving, and you can tell that he is certainly looking you up and down like a piece of meat.
Just kind of make a noise of grotesque, kind of like, it's gonna be one of those days. Groans in her throat. Takes out the fresh copy, turns off the machinery, comes back to the counter. Here you go, Detective Trevesani, all of the material I have. This is, of course, simply the copy of the original statement or the payment and any information on whomever has paid. But if you want more information, you'll have to go to the bank that the check went through.
Well, if I have any other follow-up questions, I don't suppose you have a number that I could get you in contact, or get your contact information to that effect.
Yes, of course. Here at the shop, we do have a phone, and she'll give him a card for the shop.
I see.
Here you go, feel free to call.
I don't suppose you have a cell or a home number that you could add to this just in case I need to get you at odd hours?
Well, the shop rarely closes, and my assistants are always here, so someone should always be here at the phone. And if not, it reroutes to here, which is the number for the office.
All right.
Isn't it here? Just have my business contact information.
Well, Miss, you said Nazon Vega? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Nazon Vega, yes.
Well, hopefully this will be all that we need. You know, sort of that routine bit of just trying to cross off as many names and narrow down the list of potential candidates that we need to interview. Always helps us in these sort of situations. So hopefully I won't need to bother you again, but I'm kind of leaning onto the counter. Part of me kind of hopes that I'll have to call you back for some kind of follow-up question.
Hopefully your work will go smoothly. I'm sure you have other things that are quite busy. It's a large city. Lots of crimes happen.
Yeah. Unfortunately for us, when they stick us with a case, especially high profile like this, my captain, he'll keep me and a few others that are working on this thing glued to it, like rats in a glue trap, you know?
Yes, it's quite an image. And able to leave. Unless they know off their own beds. Well, I hope it goes smoothly and you can find the assailant that murdered the good doctor.
Me too. And he'll take a step away, and he'll just simply say, "See you later, Eleanor." He'll walk out the door. How does Eleanor feel as he walks out?
Disgust. Chap having to gnaw off his own hands in order to leave. It's a good image that she compartmentalizes. Have a good one. Bye. Don't come back. And actually, she'll look back to the manila folder, open up her phone, and call up Dr. Fell. It's very kind of genial, kind of hello. Just leave a message if she'll just leave a message if the secretary doesn't pick up. Just be like, hello, Dr. Fell. I'm so sorry to hear about the death of your associate, Dr. Whatever the fuck she forgot to say, Dr. Miller or something like that. She'll probably say the right name. I'm so sorry to hear about the death of your associate. There was a detective of sorts, Detective Trevesani, I believe his first name was Francis or whatever. Anyways, just asking about information, so he might pop by to see you again. I am so sorry about the death of your associate, and yes, sorry. And the destruction of the painting, but obviously the death of your associate is more important. I hope all is well with you. Hang up. Honestly, she's just torn up over the destruction of the painting, sure. No one really liked the painting, but it was still a work of art, and, you know, it was good money. Some people are just monsters. Better monsters. And some people are slime balls. But she's calm now. After calling, and hopefully Dr. Fell will get back into contact with her, and that creepy detective will nod off his own hands and be able to escape the case. So he won't have to bother her anymore. Yay.
Well, a few weeks pass. And in those few weeks, come up to Halloween evening. And what is Eleanor doing on Halloween? What does she do in her personal time, not there at the store?
Her life is the store. But you do have a point. She, every once in a while, does get hassled by her assistants to take a day off. Boss, you're always here. Boss, have you eaten? Boss, have you slept today? Boss, go home, go home. So she's actually home for once. And she's actually scouring her books to find more information on the dagger. It's really interesting. Dr. Fell was really interesting. Works to work. Simply her life. Does she have anything else in her life? Not exactly. She may be just a lonely person, but she'll never admit to that, ever. Instead of ask. On her couch, and just kind of looking through her texts, trying to find a piece similar to the necklace that she was shown. There's a folder next to her of pictures that she's writing in it. She's probably got like an ink mark on her face she doesn't know about. She's just like, no. What year is that? No, it's not the right one.
Go ahead and roll me your intelligence academics again.
Three.
Hopefully this time the dice are kinder.
Right? Come on, dice. It's amazing me.
There you go. Oh,
At least got two.
All right. Well, 2 is better than nothing.
Right? Thank you.
You get the you figure out this is a Persian dagger of an era right around the time of Xerxes.
Ooh.
And that makes that dagger extremely old. But you've just found out this bit of information. You think that maybe Dr. Fell would like to hear about this?
Yeah. Definitely. Kind of put her notes together, continue to write. Yeah, let's do that. And she'll put her stuff in her purse and put on a coat. She's on her way. she's been scouring the last couple of weeks trying to figure out that damn dagger. And, Dr. Fell wasn't terrible to talk to. She usually just talks to her assistants or, blackmails some of her former, allies and for more information or, just little things. Just talk to people. And actually having someone to talk to is refreshing, like you said. And maybe she'll see what he's up to. Who knows? Maybe he has more things, and maybe she can drool over the artwork that he has in the office because that was fucking beautiful. Yes, she will do this. She'll make her way to Dr. Fell's.
Well, on the way to Dr. Fell's, as soon as you come out of your building and you begin to make that walk, you hear a voice behind you. Miss Vega.
Nazan Vega. Hello, Dr. Trebasani, yes?
Detective.
Yes, Detective Trebasani. How can I help you?
Well, I wanted to speak to you about your relationship with Dr. Fell, if that was all right.
Yes, of course.
Um,
Not
there's a
much of a relationship.
nice little Italian joint right down the street here, and I've been at work since about 6 a.m. and I have had a hoagie to hold me over. I don't know if maybe you wouldn't mind joining me over there and we could discuss the case.
I'm not exactly sure how much you can discuss with a civilian detective, but I do have. She'll look at her watch. Sometime I can maybe stop for a bit, or perhaps a glass of wine. I'm so sorry I'm at an appointment to get to, but I don't mind stopping for just a bit.
Well, all right. That sounds pretty good. And he'll gesture, kind of step over beside her, and he'll put his hand on the small of her back and gently nudge, not so gently, but nudge her in the direction of the Italian restaurant with an open palm,
Ah,
not a closed fist. It's a very familiar form of contact.
kind of edge a little bit as the ways. Ah, yes, I know this space. I often go here. And she'll open the door in order to lead him inside. Be like, proceed.
And he'll sit down and he orders a plate of lasagna. And after a minute, he makes small talk. Or he decides to make small talk as 2 glasses of wine are brought out. So I'm waiting for the meal, and he'll pull out his notebook, and he'll look at her, and he'll smile, and he'll set it down. So you're not a New York native, are you?
No, I'm from Illinois.
Ah, Illinois. Chicago, maybe?
Yes, a small suburb near Chicago.
Yeah. We've been there for a few games every now and then. Baseball and basketball. Like to follow my teams around, Yankees, the Knicks.
Hmm. And I'm assuming you're a native New Yorker.
Well, I happen to be, and you got to support your hometown.
Hmm.
Loyalty, very important.
Mm-hmm. Well, to answer your previously stated question about my relationship with the good Dr. Fell,
All right, we'll
so,
get to that in a minute. There's no need to rush right into things. Let's be
well,
pleasant.
well, I'm sure you're hungry. You've only eaten a hoagie, you said, since 6 a.m. I wouldn't want to bother you while you're eating. Definitely could upset your stomach.
Nah, I got a pretty hearty constitution, and well, my stomach ain't making noise yet, so that's a good sign, right?
Yes.
So tell me what this whole antique gig is all about. Like, what's the
Not necessarily antiques, things that are old, obviously, but items of value. Artifacts, things from all around the world that people are curious about and are willing to pay money for.
well,
A
looking
shop like any
around
other.
there? It looked like you had some pretty expensive stuff in there.
Yes, art and artifacts can be expensive, which is why I usually only deal to a certain clientele.
Oh, certain clientele. I can understand that. There's a certain demographic here in the city that likes to have the finer things in life. Something they can, point to and show off and say, "Yeah, I got that. That's mine. That belongs to me."
While also appreciating the artwork itself, the history around it. I mean, if you wanted something snazzy and quick, you could always just buy some cheap replica off of some kid in Williamsburg.
Well, I mean, if you can't appreciate something special, what's the point of having it? And he gives her this very flirtatious smile.
Yes, good point. But so what has to be there if someone's willing to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars? And that's what my shop deals
Wow,
with.
you have some stuff in there that's that expensive.
Well, you could say.
Hmm.
But yes, that is the shop itself, not just antiques. I mean, something from the 50s can be an antique. Something from the 1550s is
Special?
even more so. Very much so, especially if it's survived. Such a shame about that painting.
Well, you know, the guys down at the precinct, you know, they're
Mm-hmm.
pretty good, these forensic guys. Like, the stuff they can do is always kind of astounds even me. And, you know, honestly, you know, I put the pieces together, but not like them. Now, tell me about this painting, Faust and Mephistopheles.
Mistopheles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an older Victorian piece. I came across it during the beginning of my tenure here. I've had it for many years. It's so astounding that someone would dare tarnish it, however. I mean, it's a piece that's often overlooked. The poor good doctor must have really loved it, and whoever did not feel he should live did not love it. Very
Well,
painful kind of action.
you know, the perp. Still trying to figure out what the exact motive was, but seems that good doctor, Dr. Mailer, just didn't have a whole lot of friends in the world. In fact, he had more people that he wronged in this world than the people that he did right by, you know?
That's unfortunate.
And kind of seems symbolic, that picture.
Were you
Faust
familiar
and
with stories of the
Mephistopheles.
Faust?
Oh, yeah, making a deal with the devil and all.
Mm-hmm. What was the doctor of?
The doctor of psychology, oddly enough. I'm looking at his patient profiles, and, well, I'm not going to divulge any of that, you know. Don't want to put people's stuff
Mm-hmm.
out there. But
Understandable.
he saw some pretty nasty customers. Kind of people
How
that
sad, so.
you know, it's kind of people that well, if you ask me, it probably ain't gonna get any better. You know, being all screwy in the head like that.
Uh, Someone has to at least try, and that's why we have psychologists and therapists and counselors of all sorts. Perhaps one of them took to the painting in a very personal way, though I'm not sure if it was at his office or a more personal space. We only ship things.
Well, I'm interested because from everything I've read about Dr. Fellows, he seems to be very well respected, very well liked. Um, Not a lot of paper trail for him, oddly enough. All he really got was a visa. Trying to get anything out of uh, out of Italy been a pain. Trying to go through like Interpol and things like that, but Dr. Mela
Well,
wasn't respected, and just makes me begin to wonder why would a doctor of such high standing sort of sully his hands with an individual who's disreputable?
for the lesser sort.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
She'll like kind of like level us her sword, I guess you mean? Well, perhaps they previously had a relationship, a friendship per se, or minor rivalry. Who knows? All I know is that Dr. Fell was interested in a particular piece and found it appropriate.
And did you have any further contact with Dr. Fell after he purchased the painting from you?
Yes, he did have some personal pieces he wanted to show, authentications and such. Some of them were very interesting. But as you see by my shop, on these kinds of areas.
Oh, interesting. Did you ever get the impression that Dr. Fell was interested in you?
In what kind of manner would you assume, sir?
Let's just say interested.
Well, I am a professional in my field, so his queries on some of the artifacts he had would be of interest.
Well, it
I
shows
would
that
not know.
his immigration was only a few
Mm-hmm.
weeks prior to him purchasing the painting from you. Now, was that the first time you met Dr. Fell?
To my knowledge, yes, I've never seen him in my shop before.
And then a few weeks later, he invites you to his office alone at night.
Well, yes, but the shop keeps odd hours, so I'm not always available during the daytime.
Did you happen to notice if he had any kind of weapons available?
Viable weapons?
Nothing like a firearm or anything like that, but anything old, sharp, maybe.
Everything he had was old. Sharp? Perhaps not.
So no swords or knives or krisses or daggers or anything like that.
Hmm. There might have been one piece, but the piece was so ancient that touching it might have disintegrated it. The oxidation of the blade itself, so brittle.
Interesting that you
It's
say
more of a sentimental piece.
oxidation. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Because we did find a fair bit of well, what we can just go ahead and call rust on some of the wounds.
hmm. But were you able to kind of signify what kind of rust? I mean, the piece that I'm thinking of was, well, near brittle. Touching it might disintegrate it. But oxidation can happen to any kind of metal. I have the dagger in the shop, younger than what has Chinese dagger, usually sheathed in wood, but that thing is just loaded with rust.
Where were
Used to
you
belong to a pirate.
where were you headed tonight?
Myself, I was headed toward the Upper West Side.
Upper West Side. Toward Dr. Fell's office by chance?
I was considering it. I might have been able to find some information on one of his pieces, but there's also a library up in that area that I wanted to check out.
Well, which is it, Miss Eleanor?
A little bit of both. It's still early in the day.
Hmm. So you're saying that you had a dagger. It was in rough enough shape that it had oxidation to it. And it happens to be that this But the same painting that you purchased was all torn up.
I mean, perhaps, but again, the blade of the dagger was so brittle. You possibly the only way you could hurt someone would be to hurt them by the pommel. But you could do that with anything. I could pick up that wine bottle and pommel you, and it would probably still have the same kind of base of pressure. Nothing on that blade would make cuts of any sort.
Well,
At least not from my view of it.
that's a lot of coincidental information that ties you, in part at least, to this murder.
That it was purchased from my store, and that I've seen a dagger similar to what you believe might be the weapon. I have daggers in my shop itself. You could use any kind of blade, rusted enough. It all seems very circumstantial.
Does, of course, and, you know, in this great country of ours, it's always innocent until proven guilty, but it's a lot of bad press to come your way, a lot of prying eyes, a lot of interviews. Take up a lot of your time, a lot of time away from your antiques. And I wouldn't want to put that on you, Ella. That would be kind of rough for you.
Eleanor. Eleanor.
Oh, sorry, Eleanor.
Yes. Well, if you feel that I should contact a lawyer, you're more than welcome to, but I don't believe there's anything really that ties me to this case that you have. But, oh, look, Lasagna's coming. It's been very nice talking to you, Detective Trevisani. And she'll collect her bag and smile at him and make her way towards an exit. As coincidentally, his lasagna is coming. Bye.
As the lasagna is set down and you make your way out, you get about half a block away before you hear the sound of footsteps behind you. Then a hand very quickly grabs a hold of the underside of your arm.
Eleanor will turn directly. Hello, can I help you?
I didn't say we were done talking yet. I really don't like it when a broad walks away from me while I'm talking to her.
Detective Trevisani, the insinuations you're making about how I care for my shop and my clientele are very insulting. But I can understand you're hungry. I would suggest that you go eat. You do have contact information for my shop where you can get in contact with myself or one of my assistants. Or if I do require a lawyer, my lawyer will be there. I do ask that you kindly remove your hand from my arm. It's probably not the best place to grab someone in a broad light, and you are a detective, so please let go of me. It's just so weird just to grab somebody. I could have thrown my mace at you, who knows? So please, let go, detective.
You're talking about assaulting an officer.
I'm talking about assaulting someone who grabbed me from behind. And she'll wait until he actually lets go of her arm. She's like looking at it and looking at him like.
Got this really creepy smile on his face, sort of like he's excited.
Detective, do you have any other questions pertaining to your case? Pertaining to the fact that I sold a painting? Anything at all?
I've got some questions, sure.
About that. That is why I'm asking.
Oh, I've got those too.
Great, ask those questions. I do have an appointment to get to. And I wouldn't want to bite into your precious time, and you did leave the restaurant that you were ordering food from. sure they'll want you to come back.
I'll be back there quick enough, but now you do say that this is kind of circumstantial, but it is enough to bring you in for questioning. Kind of hard to make that appointment.
Detective Trebasani, there's absolutely nothing that you have that could actually be enough to question me. I've given you all the information you've required. There's a paper trail, there are copies that I'm sure you've given to your precinct. I've been nothing but cordial. Now, there's nothing
if
else.
nothing else, I could bring you in for questioning. We could hold you for 24 hours. Of course, making terroristic threats towards an officer of the law, that could definitely put you in our custody for a great deal longer.
Then by all means, Detective Trebasani, call your partner, because I'm sure detectives aren't allowed actually to bring anyone into questioning without their partner who can verify everything. Well, I call my lawyer. And she'll give him that same wooden smile. But if I'm not being brought in for questioning, I'm more than happy to continue this conversation once you let go of my arm.
He gets this smile on his face. Tell you what, why don't we walk down to Dr. Fell's office? You and I. Get this whole thing cleared out. I'm pretty sure that he wouldn't want to implicate you in anything, and I'm sure that I can clear up any misunderstanding that I had.
Fine. And she'll pull out her phone and she'll call an Uber to pick them up. Sure, there's nothing to implicate me too. You simply bought a painting that some beast ravaged. Why would someone who spent over $1,000 on a painting destroy it? It makes no sense, Detective Trebasani.
Well, a lot of crimes of passion don't make a lot of sense.
It's not passion, it's derangement.
Depends on how you look at it, what scope you look at it through, and you don't need to call an Uber. I got my cruiser right here, just around the corner. I won't even make you ride in the back.
Detective, you've yet to actually let go of my arm. I'm going to call an Uber and I'm going to get into the Uber. And you're more than welcome to follow us or stay here. But if you don't let go of my arm, it will be very, very, very bad for both of us. Just got the Uber right here. Go through, just... Why would you have to make it any more complicated? Then you can come back here and eat your lasagna.
And look her over again. Got that same appraising look that he had that first time that you noticed him checking you out. All right, then. We'll do it your way.
You.
Make sure the driver knows that you car behind you is following you.
Will do. Then she'll click on the Uber and wait for as it rolls up. She'll explain that they're going to a space, and the very nice detective will be following them in his own car. And she'll get into the car and kind of glare a little at Trebasani. It's like she rubs her arm. Grumble. Fucking... Compartmentalize. She is calm. Just enjoy the Uber ride.
And off you go. And you get to the Upper West Side, to that office. Sun having gone down just only recently. And as the Uber drops you off, the unmarked car pulls up behind you, parks. The detective gets out. And he'll look up at the building. So this is office.
It's the office building, and she's calling the secretary ahead to let her know that they're coming. She's waiting and waiting and waiting, just to make sure somebody actually picks up.
There's no answer.
She'll wait till it goes to voicemail. Hello, Dr. Fell. Yes, I just want to let you know that we're gonna, myself and the fine detective, Detective Giversani, sure you've met, are coming up to see you. I tried to call you earlier. Just letting you know. Hangs up. And try to proceed into the building. She's sort of at the very entrance doors normally open to people, but like when you go up, then like the office will be closed.
Yeah. So you get up there, go into the building, and again, as you walk in, it's decadent. And as you make your way up to that second level floor, come to those dark oak finish doors. Detective gestures to you, after you.
She'll nod and her make her way towards the right door. And knock. Wait and wait. Knock once more. Dr.
Door
Fell,
opens.
she'll smile. Hello, Dr. Fell. Did you get any of my messages?
No, I'm afraid not. I've been indisposed recently.
I know I've heard of your associate. I'm so sorry about what happened.
Terrible business to
Very
hear
terrible.
about.
I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, I am not the bearer of good news. This fine Detective Giversani, is very curious about you and me, and just simply had to come and see you. She kind of touched her arm a bit. He has some queries that just he needs to ask.
And he walks up, and he actually very brazenly just puts his arm across Eleanor's shoulders, across your shoulders. We just wanted to clear up a few misunderstandings and make sure that she wasn't involved in any way. And seeing as how, Doctor, you've really done a pretty good job of staying out of any questioning, we'd like to have just a bit of a word. And get her.
Eleanor will twitch her arm so it's not underneath his. Well,
If you wouldn't mind,
of
I'd
course
really like to
not.
come in and speak with you. And of course, if this comes down to official questioning, I'll make sure that you have a chance to, call your lawyer before you answer anything. And if you feel uncomfortable at any point, you can always lawyer up. Oh, that sounds splendid. Miss Nazon Vega,
Okay.
and he'll offer out an arm to her.
She'll take the arm. Lightly glare at the detective. Thank you, Dr. Fowl. I'm so sorry. I'm sure it's not exactly what you want to deal with. But the way of the law is how it is.
Well, seeing as Detective Trivasani here is simply just trying to solve a murder. There is a certain nobility to that we have to appreciate.
Of course.
And he gives her a reassuring sort of, places his other hand on one of hers and just kind of gives it a reassuring squeeze.
Thank you. Do apologize for the matter. He would not leave me alone, so.
Just simply put on that bright facade.
Pleasantries, of course. I was able to find some information on the dagger, though.
Oh,
Cersei Zara?
well, as soon as we're done with this, I'd love to hear more about it.
Mhm. course. And
And
just like she got
he
kind of like a smile on her face.
Mhm. and he leans over and just simply whispers to her, "Don't show people like him the ire. He's not worthy of it."
Unfortunately, he's a little bit like a roach. Just can't get rid of it. Unless you pour acid on it. But unfortunately, can't.
And he leads them into the office. Of course, that fireplace is finally lit. You get to see it in all of its glory, and it lights up all of the artifacts and some new paintings that have been brought there. Douses them in a wonderful bit of light, and of course, he has one of those green glassed desk lamps.
Of course. Of
Of course, he does.
And Eleanor will just kind of like walk around gazing at stuff, just stopping. Yes, yes, yes. Very nice. Very nice. Just kind of mentally shopping because it's also beautiful.
And
Compartmentalizing. It's also lovely.
he will lead her over to a single chair. It's more isolated than any of the others. Something that no one could just purposefully plop themselves down next to her if they were so inclined.
Thank you. She'll give him a small but very thankful smile. Just like, thank you. Seat yourself. And simply watch.
And you notice that his assistant is in the office, and she looks to be a woman of Hindu descent. And he simply gestures to her. If you wouldn't mind, Priya, just give us a bit of privacy. And she'll nod and she'll walk out, close the doors. Now, detective, see if we can't get everything worked out so you don't have to sit here and bother Miss Nazon Vega anymore.
Cool, cool, cool.
So, if you please, detective, what brings you here? And the detective, he walks over and he very purposely sits on the arm of the chair that you're sitting in. So casually. And he begins to go over sort of the various things that have kind of linked you, at least in some part, to it. And after a moment, the doctor finally halts him up and asks him exactly what were the circumstances that brought him here tonight. And he explains, about the questioning that happened at the restaurant and the two of them, exchanging words. He doesn't mention anything, of course, about grabbing Eleanor's arm or being rather belligerent with her. But the detective seems to make a bit of a slip up. And he says that he's there without his partner. And Dr. Fell, his expression changes only slightly. Oh, I see. Now that's really something, he says, and looks over at Eleanor. Eleanor, darling, would you like to have a bit of a drink? You look like you're a bit
Could use
tense.
one.
And he'll walk over and pour that same brandy into a glass and bring it over to her. And standing there very close to well, to the chair, standing only about a few feet from the detective. Eleanor, take a drink out of that glass.
With nurse a little. Thank you.
And,
I have had a trying day.
of course, We can all have those. And of course, too many trying days can certainly be the death of us. And that's when something just quick as you can imagine it, just something wet and hot, spatters against your face. And there's this brief pause, and the detective begins to go rigid, and his hands come up to his throat. And as he sort of tumbles over, he rolls a bit and falls across you before hitting the ground. And when he does, you can see that blood is just gushing out of his neck, and a fair bit of it just all over Eleanor before he hits the ground. And as he's laying there gurgling and gasping, he can't really do much, but he does start to reach for his gun, and you can see that Dr. Fell has a knife in one hand, and he just sort of reaches over and goes, ah, 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 and he pulls the firearm with the handkerchief out from the detective's holster and simply holds it out for Eleanor.
Eleanor will grab a tissue out of her bag and use it to kind of wipe at her face, but just kind of spreads the blood more. And kind of open her palm and kind of gesture for him to give her the handle. Just kind of her hand, lay down. I would just like to ask, do you know how hard it is to get blood out of silk shirts?
I can only imagine that it is very difficult.
That's why you touch everything with the handkerchief, I'm guessing. Fingerprints?
Eleanor, noticing that a man's now bleeding out, last few gurgles sort of coming out, the blood bubbling out of his throat at this point, kind of that same foamy bubble comes out from the corners of his mouth. What is I'd like Eleanor to make me that a stamina check. Let's say difficulty 7.
Okay, let me see. Maybe 7? Okay, well, here's to hoping. Okay, good.
You're keeping it together. Though your constitution is not as strong as some, but you've just witnessed someone being murdered right in front of you.
Fingerprints? Are you going to put it on me? Because you're the one who gave me the gun.
I don't know. Would I need to?
Why did you kill him? Too clever? I can't exactly imagine him being clever.
I found him to be rather rude.
Belligerent and disgusting. And he bruised my fucking arm.
I can only assume as much.
None of which really constitutes as necessarily the need to die. If you killed him because he was being rude, belligerent, another asshole, because it seems like that was the appropriate behavior of the late detective Francis Trevisani.
Francis Trevisani is, I believe it says here, and he'll hold up the wallet with the badge in it.
If you're not going to put it on me, depending on whatever I do that pleases you or doesn't displease you, who knows? What exactly are you going to do with the body? And the
I'll have it
paper
taken care of.
And
I'm not a...
with
I'll have it taken care of. Dear Eleanor. Oh, I'll have to do something about the car as well. I'm not fond of loose ends. And that's when his gaze turns to her.
And she'll look right back. Dr. Fell, if you are indeed Dr. Fell, who knows? I would not equate murder with lying, but it tends to happen. What do you want? I mean, you knew I was going to be here. I was with him when we walked in. You knew that you would have to do something with me when you killed him, because it doesn't exactly seem like it was a gut reaction, just something planned. So what exactly is it that you want so that I may keep myself put together? I do have a shop to run. I do have things I would like to do. But if I die, then I die. But still, I'm just not quite keen on doing so early. What do you want?
Simply for you to make a choice. And he smiles as he holds that curved blade sort of at his side, still dripping with a bit of blood on it. I won't lie to you and tell you that you're going to walk out of this office alive, Eleanor.
Give me one moment. And she'll stand up, drain the glass of brandy, go over to the decanter, pour more brandy. Okay. So I guess I have a choice of how I'm going to die?
In a sense.
In a sense. Dr. Fell, Nikolai, whomever that you are, what are the choices for me?
Well, knowing that you are going to expire tonight one way or the other, before we get into the various choices, is there anything that you regret? Anything that you wish you could have done with the time that you had?
I've had so little time. But in what I had, perhaps I should not have been as cruel to my parents when they divorced. Of course, I'm bitter about it, but maybe I should have been so cruel and crass. But what 17-year-old isn't? I wish that I had cultivated better relationships with my allies, contacts, people I've used in order to get information. I wish I did better for my shop. I gave my two shopkeepers a better raise. I mean, I gave them a good raise, but I wish I did better. I regret that I already have a bigger shop, more of an empire. Spiraling up and down the coasts. Selling items of interest to people. My regrets are fickle. Because, of course, I'm going to die. All I'm thinking of is the fact that I'm going to die and I don't have time to do everything that I wanted to do.
So your regrets are based around time.
I didn't have enough of it. That I didn't make do with what I had if I had known. But how could I have known?
And if you had an unlimited amount of time,
I'd learn everything. Everything. There are spaces in time where I don't understand certain things about certain cultures. I'm not exactly a master in my knowledge of ancient China or fully understanding the cultural fetishes of the African tribes. I'm spaces in my mind that are not fully filled with knowledge that I can't use.
I see.
I would gorge myself on knowledge and use it to help people and punish people that deserved it. It's not that I'm upset that you killed Travasami. He was a pig, and something about him was wrong. Perhaps I am cruel in that, but his death is not a huge loss to humanity.
Quite
But
indeed, it isn't.
if I had time, wouldn't it be better to just make him suffer? Do something to his ticker to shatter it. Make his crimes, which I'm sure there are of, a link to the
Coercion,
world.
blackmail, sorts of things I looked into.
Split it out for the world to see so he would suffer for it.
That may
That
yet
would have
happen.
been, that would have been beautiful justice.
Poetic. And his hand settles down on your left shoulder. He's standing behind you. And there is a certain gravity towards it. And
Can I at least give you the paperwork before you slit my throat, stab me, whatever have you?
I'm afraid
I have it right here.
time is a bit short on that end.
Time is of the essence, and there's none of it left.
I'm afraid there isn't.
All right.
What I'm going to do is take this blade across your throat. It'll bleed out fairly quickly. The pain will be minimal. This blade is rather sharp. And I'll be here with you the whole way. So you won't die alone. Would you like
And
there
that's
to
my
be
only option.
something after death, Eleanor?
After. Faced with oblivion and possibly the infinite. I take the infinite. After death? Yes.
I
But
will
I'm not
tell
sure.
you
Mm-hmm.
that what I offer you is damnation of your soul. Plain and simple. I will make you into a monster that preys upon the living. I will make you into something terrible. And you will have to hurt. You will have to defile, and you will have to kill your fellow men. You'll be thrust into a world of political grandstanding and backroom dealings that end sometimes in, well, the most grand stories tied to any Machiavellian scheme you've read about in your lifetime. And in doing
Considering
so, you will
mm-hmm.
be brought into madness.
I'm not a good person. I've never said this. Even if you do not turn me into a monster, I'm 1000% sure that my soul is damned either way. Why not go full throttle? Madness, you say? All right. If it's a choice between something after death and simply being gone on this floor with that cretin whose blood is pooling near my feet, I'll take what you're offering. But I will have many questions, and I would like answers for it, if I'm fully coherent enough.
The lovely thing about what I'm affording
I'm warning you.
you is there will be an abundance of time.
Well, then you better get to it, because apparently that's the one thing I'm running out of.
And he'll reach up, place a hand, same hand to her forehead, lean her back slightly.
She'll close her eyes. She's ready for death, and whatever else there may be after, if that's indeed what he's promising. He's not just lying, so she's compliant. She'll take the chance.
I recommend that you let all the air out of your lungs. It makes it go faster. And the second that exhale deflates to a point to where perhaps a slight change in the pallor of her skin begins on her cheeks. Blade, as promised, comes across her neck. And it's a sudden and sharp pain that's gone fairly quickly and left only sort of this burning, but it's the sensation of blood leaving your body in copious amounts. The shock of it all causes you to gasp in. And of course, all of that blood that's coming from your arteries flows into that punctured esophagus in the windpipe. And almost immediately, it's like breathing in a lungful of water. And every part of you, starting with your fingertips, coming up the legs, up the arms, begins to get cold, as if you've been out in the winter weather for far too long. You can't help but shiver, but the more you shiver, the quicker it goes, as sort of inky, creeping darkness begins to flood over your vision. You find it difficult. You feel drowsy. And the last thing you hear is the sound of Dr. Fell's voice. Unlimited time to make your world. And then everything goes black. And there, ladies and gentlemen, we end our scene. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. I hope you have enjoyed another episode of Camarilla in the Streets and Sabat in the Sheets. Thank you and good night.